Welcome to another opportunity to be inside ECAC decision makers. I'm Pierre McGuire. It is such a pleasure to be joined by Eric Lang, the new head coach at RPI. And what a great tradition of hockey, education, and passion for the game of hockey in Troy, New York, and in particular, coach at Houston Fieldhouse. What was it like the first time you walked in there knowing you were going to be the head coach of RPI?
Man, the place is so unique. It has an old Fenway meets Yankee Stadium type feel with the rafters and the seating. Actually really reminds me of the old Yankee Stadium. And the first thing that's obvious when you walk in is you look up and you see some incredible banners. The two national championship teams, which a lot of programs can't boast about. And obviously we want to return to that greatness. And, Joe Juno and Adam Oates, and there's just Darren Pupa, kind of guys in my era, my wheelhouse. I used to cut the toe of my stick like Adam Oates, and to see his name and number up in the rafters, it's kind of surreal. And every day, I don't take that for granted. Every day when I walk through our doors, I make sure I take a glance at those banners, because those banners were not achieved by being comfortable. Those guys got uncomfortable, and that's what we have to do here.
Yeah, there was a great coach there by the name of Mike Odessa that coached a lot of those players. And I had the honor and privilege of running hockey camps for Coach Odessa way back in the day with Paul Vincent, who I know you know very well. And one of the cool parts about being in Troy, New York, and you're starting to get this feel for it now, is how many people are actually involved in youth hockey there and how much your program actually does to stimulate the interest in youth hockey in Troy, New York. Are you seeing that now?
What's evident, Pierre, is hockey is serious in this town. Yeah. We have season ticket holders that have been here for God knows how long, and people bleed RPI hockey, and it's very different from where I came from. I had at AIC, we had a great alumni base, but we did not have great fan support. Hockey is important in this town. It's really important in the community. Us as a program, we've got to make sure we check that box and make sure we're giving back, not just our players, but our coaching staff as well. So all of these things are important, and it's going to take a village here to get this thing turned around. We need our community. We need our alumni. We need fan support. We need everything to kind of get this thing rolling here. And, it's an exciting challenge of what lies ahead, but not uncharted territory for me on a personal level. At AIC, we were able to do, we were an NCAA tournament team, 4 years in a row. We were able to do it with half the resources that are afforded here. And it's really exciting.
What's really cool, too, is geographically where you're situated. You're very close to the New England prep schools. You're very close to the province of Quebec. You're not far from Eastern Ontario. You're just down the road, maybe 4 hours to Toronto. I know where you're at geographically pretty well. How are you going to split up your recruiting? Are you going to be a worldwide entity? Or are you going to try to go locally, geographically? How are you going to do it?
So prior to this weekend, I had spent the last 5 weekends in a row in Ontario. And I think for us right now, there's so many players available that we do not want to get spread too thin here. We want to become experts in a couple of regions that we can get to and do boomerang trips, down, watch a game, come back, down, watch a game, come back. And that has been our approach right now. We spent a lot of time in Ontario. As you mentioned, Pierre, we've been in Quebec. That's a good start for us. And we're never going to ignore the USHL and, any leads we get from out in the Western Hockey League. We're certainly going to follow up on, but we want to be experts where we can get eyes on these kids. It's cost efficient for our budget. It's efficient for our staff in terms of not, we're not 3, 4, 5, 6 days on the road. We can go in, get out, go in, get out. And that's what we've been doing.
How important or how different is it now with the CHL being involved in the legality of major junior players being able to come play college hockey?
The one thing we all get in the rink, Pierre, and we say, hey, how do you compare the OHL to the USHL? Who's seen the Western Hockey League? What do you think is better, the OHL or the Quebec Major Junior League? So we're all trying to get a grasp on this. Yeah. And it's really neat. And I think it's what you prioritize as a staff. And for us right now, we're not in a position where we're getting first, second, and third round NHL draft picks. So what are we going to prioritize? And for us, it's hard skill. And here's what we know. The toughest, hardest playing team will always find a way to win. And that's where we want to be here at RPI. So we're out on the road. We're looking for big, strong, heavy, smart, and guys that are competitive. And that has to be, at the end of the day, when you come in the Houston Fieldhouse, and it may not be the results early here what we want, but you're going to walk out of this building and say, man, those guys play hard and they play the right way.
Well, I can tell you from experience, I coached in 2 Big Red Freakout games there, and I watched my son play in one as well when he was at Colgate. So I know how intense Houston Fieldhouse can be. And back in the day when I was at St. Lawrence or I was at Babson, Big Red Freakout night in Troy, New York was a tough place to go. And I don't know if you've experienced that yet, but Coach, it's an amazing thing. And I think that's one of the great parts of the legacy of RPI, all these special events that you have there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And it's kind of funny. We had a pretty good opening crowd, and we played Miami here.
Right.
And our fan base would almost rather see us play Cornell, Clarkson, St. Lawrence, Harvard. Obviously, Union is a big one on our schedule. Our fans are kind of conditioned for the traditional ECAC, and we've got 2 great opponents coming in here this weekend, Boston College and Providence. Yeah. So it's not going to get easier here for us, but it's kind of neat to see their attachment to these ECAC schools, and it's what makes this place special.
Well, that's for so many years. You guys were a marquee franchise in the ECAC. And I think it's one of the things before Union got in the league, it kept the ECAC together between the East and the West, especially when Hockey East came into being and it separated the leagues. Let me ask you about Europe and recruiting in Europe and whether that's still a vehicle. I know you've got some Latvians on your team. Is that something you're going to pay attention to as well? Yeah, we have to.
At AIC, we made all of these great inroads in the Czech Republic, and we made all of these great inroads in Sweden. At one point at AIC, we had 12 or 13 Europeans on our team. I don't think we will quite be to that level, but I do think we can really improve our skill level by getting over to Sweden. We've actually got 2 tremendous Austrian young players, both freshmen, kid by the name of Classic and a kid by the name of Ian Scherzer. We have one of our great assistants here, Matthias Lang, who's coached in the national program. He was a great player here at RPI, a great goalie. And now he has these great roots into Austria. So, we have to be all encompassing here. And we certainly, take advantage of where we have inroads, and Austria and Sweden and Czech Republic are places where we're active as well.
You originally talked, Coach, about all the great alumni that you are aware of, like Adam Oates, like Darren Pupa, like Mike Sataport, like Johnny Carter, Craig Nienhaus, the list, Michael Dark, the list goes on and on. It can never end. Do you talk to them much? Do you ask them their opinions about the program and their time in Troy?
Absolutely. And we have a great athletic director, Pierre Christy Bauer. She's she was over at Boston University. Mm-hmm. We have collaborated on just about everything to get this thing headed in the right direction. And one of the areas of focus for us is to make sure, hey, we've got this great alumni and we've got this great tradition and history. And ultimately, Pierre, they're the shareholders of the program. So, we'd be foolish to not hear their concerns. We'd be foolish to not empower them in terms of how can they help and what are they seeing. And, we've played some golf. We've done some, we got Saratoga up the road. We've done some horse trips here. The alumni, they want this thing to be special. And there's that for me to have that, it means a lot, but the word support comes to mind. And I can't tell you the amount of people that have put out their hand and said, Coach, what do you need? How can we do this together? And I think that's the beauty of RPI.
That's so well said. I love the way you phrase that. That's good. One of the cool parts about you that a lot of people don't know, you're a former NHL off-ice official.
Yeah.
How'd that help you in your coaching journey?
What a great question. I was, I did the visitors penalty box down in Madison Square Garden. I would occasionally
Don't worry, I'm aware.
I know, you know all. I would occasionally do back in the day where we, you put the light on for the, I was a goal judge. Honestly, to be around Madison Square Garden and to watch these guys come in and the level of professionalism is like the first thing that's glaring to me. They'd walk through, and I know you've done it 100 times. You walk up that ramp at Madison Square Garden, and it's all business. And they're getting in there at 4:30, between 4:30 and 5, whether they have their music on or their strut and how they're walking. I went, man, this is serious. Like this is, and I think for how that translates into coaches is you better be prepared. You better have a plan because this is serious business. And that's really, to watch Mark Messier walk up the ramp and like he'd have this kind of, he had the best presence I've ever seen of anybody walking into an arena.
That's cool. That's really cool. I had a guy that was pretty good. His name was Lemieux. He was he was pretty good walking into a ring too, Coach. But I agree with you on Mess. Totally agree. The other part of your story that I think is fascinating, you're one of the few guys that's crossed over. Your actual journey in coaching started, I think, on the women's side, if I remember correctly, at Manhattanville.
Sure.
And then you moved into the men's side and eventually ended up at West Point. But how has women's hockey changed from when you started coaching in Manhattanville and you spent 3 years to where you see it today?
Boy, we had some good teams there at Manhattanville. It was a great learning experience for me because you know this, Pierre, as coaches, we want to talk X's and O's and what are you doing on the power play and what adjustments are you making? And when I started to coach the women, it was my first indicator that relationships matter.
Mm.
And we can know as much as we want about the game. If we can't impact them as people, it doesn't matter what we know. And that was a great early lesson for me to build relationship. And the more you cared about them and the more you loved them, the harder they play for you. Mm. And it was also an opportunity for me to make some mistakes as a coach in terms of was trying different things and, the Rangers are doing this. And the one thing about the women's game is they want the why. Mm-hmm. They'll do whatever you ask them to do. They're really smart players, but they want to know why you're doing it. And it was really, really neat just to reinvent myself a little bit and learn how to give the why. Here's why we're doing X. And here's what, we're doing our forecheck and we want to keep the puck on one side of the ice. Here's why, right? And then obviously I turned that into going over with Brian Riley over at Army, which is as good a 4 or 5 years. And I know you know the Riley family as well as anybody. That's as good a 4 or 5 years as I could have ever dreamt of. To be on that campus, special place. It takes a different type of person to be there. And Brian Riley is, he's the best, in my opinion, he's the best leader in all of college hockey, and he's enjoying his retirement right now. But there isn't a morning that doesn't go by where I don't pick up the phone and we don't talk.
See, I love that part of it because the mentorship question really matters next for me based on your time at West Point. And I've known the Rileys for almost 40 years, so I'm a huge fan of the family. And I think college hockey will miss Brian Riley. I do. I really believe that. And I'm so glad you had a chance to spend time with him. But talk about the difference between recruiting at West Point and then, recruiting obviously at a scholarship school like RPI is. And have you noticed any differences so far?
Yeah, the beauty of recruiting at West Point is you have to have an incredibly sharpened focus. We can only get Americans. We can only get Americans that have Ivy League grades. And then, oh, by the way, you may have to go serve your country when your time is up. That pool gets like this very quickly. And then we have to be the best at what that pool looks like. And you can't miss. Okay, so the pool is small. The difference I would say here at RPI is the pool is much greater, although we do need that high-end academic. And that's our competitive advantage, Pierre. in the game of life, anything that's hard is going to be worth it. And this degree that you can get from RPI, it's life-changing. It really is. It's life-changing. And for us, that is a big competitive advantage that we have right now, is our ability to sell the institution and talk about having the institution work for you instead of in reverse. And I could say this, Pierre, I'm an AIC grad. At AIC, I often joke, like, if you could spell cat, we get you into AIC. If you couldn't spell it, we spot you the C and the A, and that worked against us in a lot of ways. Like, families want to invest in their children's education. And if hockey could be the vehicle to getting a degree at an RPI, we really have, that's what's going for us right now.
I love that. Great take. Really good take. Talk about the ECAC brand on the ice right now. I find it to be one of the most physical leagues in the country. I don't know how much tape you've watched, but that's my takeaway on it. Watching my son play there, having coached in it, having played in the ECAC, I just find it to be the most physical league. What's your take on it, Coach?
Yeah, so, I'll rewind. April, I get the job here. We needed 20 new players. Okay, 20 players in April. Some people have said, hey, this isn't a rebuild. It feels more like a startup. Okay, so April, May, June, we really we did everything we can here to bring in some really great people and pour the foundation for how we want to play. June, July, end of July and August, I started to dive into ECAC hockey. And it's very, very eye-opening. There are no nights off. Mm-hmm. You better buckle your chin strap and put your mouthpiece in, because every single game has an intensity like no other. And, one of the things we're striving for, we want to be the hardest working team in the ECAC. And being a hard working team and the hardest, they're worlds apart. There isn't a team in this league that we can look at and say, man, you know what, we'll go right over them. They cheated a little bit, or there isn't a team in this league, Pierre. You watch more than anybody. Mm-hmm. The ice is really, really, really hard. And it's made a great free agent league. Our league has been an incredible free agent hockey league. And I think because you're battle tested 22 games in a year, and I think that's attractive for NHL GMs and organizations. You come out of the ECAC, you've learned how to compete. You've learned how to play with second and third effort, and you've learned how to play with two hands on your stick.
That's really well said. Again, so appropriate and so spot on. Union, I know you're aware. You got 3 times you're playing them this year. You're opening up the season with them with a home and home. You'll be the first team to really play a quote-unquote ECAC game in their new building. How do you prepare your guys for something like that without overstating it, but still knowing the importance of the game?
Yeah, I feel like we as a staff have to know everything. And then our players, we have to pick and choose what we want to do there. There's a great thing. Army football would prep for a Navy game for a couple hours a week, even if they were playing Tulane. Right. That's how big those games are. RPI hockey is taking a page out of the Army playbook. There isn't, if there's games on, I'm watching Union. If there's, it's that important. It's that important to our fan base. They have had the better of RPI here recently. And hey, make no mistake about it, Pierre. If we want to be a top team in the ECAC, we better be a top team here in the 518 first.
That's so perfect. So you say 518. I think you used to be in the 203. I know I used to be in the 203. Yeah. How's the move been?
I'm in a hotel, Pierre. My family is back in Connecticut. Yeah. We wanted to try to get to the Saratoga area, which is a great area. We just couldn't pull it together. This is the best thing for me right now in our program. I'm 24/7 RPI hockey. Oh, yeah. And, my assistants aren't jumping up and down about it. They're getting, 10:30 texts and we got to do this. And have we looked at that? But it's allowed me to be RPI hockey here 24/7. And that's a good thing right now, because this thing needs all of our attention. And we'll get the family up here in the spring. I'm sneaking home when I can. I don't love being without my kids. I've got a daughter at Berkshire. She's playing hockey there. I got a son.
That's pretty close. So that's pretty close, but that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not bad. And I got my son is at BK in Rochester.
Yeah.
We have the 2 little ones. So I'm getting home when I can, but this job has my attention 24/7, and it's really exciting.
Better pizza in Troy, New York than Simsbury, Connecticut. I can tell you that right now. I can tell you that right now. Oh, gosh. Coach, this has been so much fun being on with you. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on ECAC Decision Makers. And I just want everybody out there to know, Coach talked about playing Boston College on Friday night. That game's actually going to be on SNY New York. And so if you get a chance to tune in, it's going to be an exciting time from Houston Fieldhouse in Troy, New York. Eric, I can't thank you enough. It's always great to visit with you. And what a great take. I loved your take about West Point and the comparable in terms of getting ready for Union College, because I know how big that rivalry is. It's gigantic. Thank you.
You're the best, Pierre. Great to be on. Thank you.
Thank you.